Alright, I'll have a mess around now, see what happens. Gotta play the first couple of bars and make sure the tunes are working okay. It seems okay. I didn't realize when I first played that this project is actually I had the master section on bypass, so it wasn't being limited. But then again, it was there wasn't much, or there isn't much maximizing going on in this track really, so it probably wouldn't have been clipping or anything. So we're going to have a look at Rob Papens' new synth called go2. I love Rob Papens' synths. I've got several. I'll have a look. I'll show you through some of my instruments. There we go. That's the new one. Go2. So I've not, out of maybe 5 minutes or so, looked at it earlier on. Just basically having to look around at how it works and so on. Predator, everybody knows that one. Into music production, you know it's a good, decent synth. Punch is quite good. Quad, yeah, another quite good one. I like that for pads, sometimes moving pads. RG, alright, instrument, that's the only one I don't use much. Occasionally I'll use it for plucky things. Sub boom bass, yeah, I use that for, obviously, sub. Not all the time, but I mess around with other stuff for sub basses and stuff. I normally mix things up with subs. I normally go for like I'll create a low end in one synth, and I'll create the high end of that in another, and I'll sample that, and I'll resample it, and then put it in, because obviously with sub bass, it's not all about that really low end stuff. It's about the higher transient, the higher frequencies as well. So I like to mix it up a bit. In Vector's absolutely awesome. It's a really underrated synth by Rob Papens. It's especially nice on pad sounds, I find, and like string stuff and what have you. Choir sounds, that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's a few good Rob Papens synths. But this evening I'm going to try this go2. I just outright bought it. I didn't mess around. I never ever mess around with any of Rob Papens' gear. I just buy it generally straight away, because you just know he's never ever put out crap, you know. So yeah, I bought this pretty much. It was an insta buy. This track here, I've just pulled it up as a demo. Yeah, I just loaded it up. It's a track I done last year. It's still not finished actually. And I thought, well, I'll use this and just see where this go2 instrument could fit in it, or just use some of the stuff I've written in here rather than sitting playing and making mistakes manually on the keyboard and shit. So, because I'm not the strongest player, I'm more into the production side of things than playing. I used to play it quite a bit, but when you mess around with music production, mixing and mastering and stuff like that, you tend to, well, I do anyway, I tend to lean away from sitting playing and stuff, which is kind of a shame, really. But I still sit and work out melodies and stuff on the keyboard, you know what I mean, and things like that. Sit and work out, play around with chords and stuff. But what I really like lately, I'm not sure if any user or Reason users, but I'm really liking the players. They're really good. I mean, especially for people like me who aren't really strong keyboard players, and they don't know all the chords and so on. It allows you to just pick up whatever key you want to start your track in, and then just mess around in there, lay a few chords down, and then you can pick out melodies from them chords and stuff. It's really really good. I mean, yeah, a lot of elitists and other doors, which I will mention, will probably but it's cheating and stuff. Well, it's not really. It's everybody in music production or anything else. You want to be using tools that are going to push your workflow a bit and push your creativity. And for me, Reason does that. A lot of people whinge about it. Blah, blah, blah. They whinged about it not having VSTs years ago. Now it's got VSTs. They're still whinging about it now. But for me, I don't think you can beat Reason. But anyway, this isn't a video specifically about Reason itself. If you're here, you'll know it's a brilliant door to use. It's a fast, creative workspace to be working in. So let's drag one of these go2 instruments and have a look. So we've got the initialized patch straight away, which I imagine will be like it's just a basic saw. Got a spread there. it's kind of phasing things. But I've got a sub oscillator as well on the back of those. All right, still it's just one oscillator actually. Okay. I should really activate that Windows Zoom tool thing, shouldn't I? Really. I can remember trying to remember what the key combination is to activate the Windows Zoom feature. Because this is running in 4K, unfortunately, and I'm streaming at 720. I could put it up to 1080 or something, or maybe even 4K, but I just used a game stream set, like a default game stream setting, and then to get the audio through, I've got a few audio interfaces. I just passed an output from one audio interface, the main audio interface I use for my music production, which is an RMA interface. I passed the one of the spare outputs for that, because I've got multiple outputs. I passed them out to the inputs on a different interface, and I used the inputs on that as the audio capture device, which is much better than using, like, you know, all this different loopback software and stuff, which can be a bit of a pain, and you have to load that up and all the rest of it. Well, with this, it just works, and it's that simple. So, it looks quite a complex synth, this. Another thing as well, I've got this on push to talk, and I'm having to press the middle mouse button to activate push for talk, so I can't actually do anything while I'm on type and do stuff in the synth at the same time. Let's have a look through maybe some presets, but as it stands, it's a synth, one oscillator synth with a sub oscillator. Filter modes, I'll just have a look through them. Hang on. Right, well, glancing through it, it's relatively simple. It looks relatively simple to work with. It's got all your usual filters and so on. Filter envelope, high pass filter, amp, 1 LFO, right? Okay. Envelope. Right, not arpeggiator there in the bottom. Tell you what, for the next stream that I do, I'll mess around with the Windows, the zoom in feature on Windows, so you can see the synth itself. So what I'll do, I'll just go the audio side of things, and we'll just have maybe a breeze through a few presets and have a look and just see. Maybe I can have a look at each patch and see what's happening with them as well. Patch wise, we've got an introduction folder. Looks like there's quite a few presets. I think there's around about 600 presets or so, maybe more, maybe 700 or something. I may be getting mixed up, so you'd have to check that. But there is quite a few, as always with Rob Papens synths and so on. He always gives you a crap ton of really good quality presets. They're not, you know, not rubbish like a lot of synths. There'll be a hell of a lot of sounds you'll not use, but with Rob Papens, they're all really usable patches made by reputable folk as well. So we've got a default patch as in favorites there. Big synth, I wonder what that is. Probably a big synth. Just throw in, we'll go with my favourite key as well, we'll go C minor maybe. Synth sounds really good. I'm listening to, well, I'm using Neumann monitor as the KH 120s with the sub, and it sounds nice. It sounds like a nice synth. Very detailed. That's good with an arpeggiator. Let's try an arpeggiator on that. I like that movement. I don't think that movement can be automated though in Reason, as far as I know. I'm not sure if that'll be changed. It'll change in the future or not. Well, actually thinking about it, it probably can be. You've probably got to draw it in though or something. Pretty moogy sounding that. Or moog, whichever way you want to pronounce it. Well, up to now, everything's got something on the mod wheel as well, so, but then again, that's typical of Rob Papens as well. They always have good patches. A lot of patches, you know, they'll sit and, you know, make a sound or whatever, and then they don't actually apply anything, not even like a filter or whatever to the mod wheel. They just let you. So we made Tron Super there. Being cleaned it. You got a few effects below the arpeggiator. I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna have a look and see if I can find that hotkey. Right, I found it. Let's have a look. See. Yeah, I remember why I didn't like using this much, because it's twitchy. Move your mouse pointer near the side of the screen and it starts jumping around, moving the screen around. Maybe I can zoom it back just a little bit, so it's maybe 250%. Right. Sorry about this flicking round, guys. It's a pain in the ass. I'm just not used to streaming this type of thing. I'm more used to streaming games and stuff, and this is just a little bit more of a pain in the backside when you use 4K as a medium to do your work in. It's a pain to try and stream. the ears. Sounds like there's a bit of portamento on there. Very nice. Some of the arpeggiators. Which one? So they're using like an arpeggiator to get like a gated type of sound. I like the way that kicks the reverb in at the end. A specific note, that's good. Oh, it's loving that. I wonder if, yeah, you must be able to use those effects separately as well, because we've got two inputs back here. I haven't tried it yet, but that looks to be the case. That's a good thing. Try this on the low side because I like 303's type of sounds and stuff. Let's try some pads. God. Something's terrible. That's an interesting sound. Typical paddy trancey sounds that people like so much, and pretty much every synth that ever comes out always has several of these things. But it's nice to hear different characters of the same sound. with a reverb. Different reverb on it. I'll just drag one as an insert while I'm messing around. Try some Valhalla shimmer patches. This reverb is awesome if you don't have it. Doesn't matter what DAW you use, you should really be having this this reverb. It's brilliant. Very nice. I'll bypass that. It's not music, I'm just sorry if anybody watching me, Tron's talking was there on Discord. Yeah, I'm just messing around with a new synth by Rob Papens. It's called go2. So I've just been messing around, just going through a few basic things and then a few preset sounds, and then I quite like the reverb on a particular patch, so I switched it. Well, it was actually the delay. I switched the delay off on it, and I put the Valhalla Shimmer VST on over the top of it just to see what it was like. If you watch the stream, I'll demonstrate at gating the sound for you if you want, what I was telling you about earlier. Obviously that you probably hear it through the microphone anyway. Yeah, exactly. Right, I'll put that that one. I'll put that it was called Pump. It was written by a guy, and I tested it, and I've done a bunch of patches for it as well. So I'll put that on, and then you can hear what I mean about that effect that you liked in that track. It was overused in that though, but yeah. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Yeah. I've put it just before the reverb, actually, so I mean I could put it after, and what'll happen there is it'll actually gate the reverb, which is alright. Like, I'll try it both sides. I'll try it without the reverb on first, because I've got the reverb on bypass at the minute. But that's like that thing, yeah, there is. It's like a basic form of what I was talking about earlier. But that's a little bit excessive, so you turn the mix down a bit on it. Actually, that sounds like a part in that track I was doing. It's quite no, it's not the same thing. It's something. It's a completely different synth. This is that new Rob Papens synth I was on a bit. I used Reason predominantly. I moved on from other DAWs years ago because VSTs were just a pain in the ass and they crashed out all the time, and I had a hard time with it, so yeah, so I switched over to this. Thing is as well, when I'm talking and there's anything playing back, obviously it's going to be looping back through the microphone as well. So I've got to be careful myself. I've got to try and stop any sound before I actually use the mic. Yeah, well, I was going to, but I like to hear. Well, I like to hear the low end on new synths and stuff. So I wanted to hear the sub, because the sub's matched up through the speaker, as you say, so everything's kind of on a complete level. So like really low stuff, right down to 20 hertz, I'm going to get an accurate representation of what the synth's given us, you know, sound-wise, like fidelity-wise, and I can kind of compare it with our synths that way as well. With headphone, no, the headset's not good enough. No, it's. I mean, it's decent. The headphones I've got, the KRK 8400s, they're decent, but KRK, I don't really rate KRK stuff very much. The higher end stuff's not bad, but like the KRK rockets and stuff kind of just tell you lies when it comes to mixing and mastering. So yeah, I use the KRKs at night when I'm mixing and mastering at night time and stuff. But then again, I find the following day I load the same track up and then I play it back through the monitors, and it's a different kettle of potatoes. You see, I've got to make adjustments again. So I'm thereabouts though, because I'm kind of getting used to these headphones and how they compare with me monitoring setup. You see, so I kind of know where I'm at with the KRKs, and I know that I can get so far with that. But what I won't mix on the headphones is like bass, and that's a good tip to anybody. Generally don't mix bass on headphones, it's just asking for trouble. Yeah, well, it's not just that, it's the detail in the low frequencies and stuff. It's hard to get. It's just basically hard to do. Well, I'm saying it's hard to do. It's not hard to do. You can, but you'll find that the following day, if you've got a good monitoring system, you'll be a mile out. You've got to start all over again. So, I mean, but sometimes, I mean, I can kind of do it now with a mix, because, like I say, I'm kind of getting to know the difference between me headphones, how many headphones reproduce stuff, and so they're supposed to be flat as well. They're supposed to have a flat response. But I'm getting to know the difference between them and me monitoring setup, which I've set up to be completely flat. The speakers themselves, the actual Neumann KH120s, are actually flat in themselves. You know, the sub's flat as well, so you use a crossover between the two, and then you just get everything flat first, and then of course, well, they're already flat, sorry, but you use like a dB meter and just level match everything. So there we have it. What the hell was I doing anyway? Oh, I was messing around with that gated effect, wasn't I? So yeah, the gate, that's so yeah, it's not an advert for pump. Like it's a good little effect. It's Sonic Bits made, so it's cheap as hell as well. That's what I had in mind to mention. It's not very much money to buy, and it's really effective, and it's good for getting fast gated effects there. I mean, there's other ways of doing it in Reason. You don't have to use specific stuff like this to get gated effects and whatever, and pumping effects and whatnot. There's other ways of doing it. We're using a method called side chaining and stuff, which I won't go into now because that's a whole video's worth of explanation in itself. There's another one here that does a similar effect. Hang on, I'll just get it. Yeah, you buy all the rack extensions that are the Reason native stuff are called rack extensions, which I find are generally better than VSTs. Some people are gonna wince a bit at that, but they really are. They integrate so much better. And then the others are VSTs, which are like plug-in instruments. But I mean, there is some plugins I like. I mean, effect plugins, like I was just saying before, Valhalla Shimmer. That's an absolutely awesome plugin, and they're only like 50 quid each. I've got all four of the things here. I think one of them was one of them. Well, I mean, there's others that are fair way more expensive, like, but yeah. I got this Waves Tune Real Time as well. I got that in the sale. That wasn't very much money. That was worth getting. Pulse Stretch. That's the new VST version of Pulse Stretch, which it doesn't really work very well in Reason, but it's free, so I'm not complaining. But I still use to anybody who makes ambient music and stuff, and you haven't heard of Pulse Stretch, it's well worth doing a search for it and downloading it. It's a free tool, actually. It runs outside your door. Like I say, the new VST version will run within your door, but I just find within Reason at the minute, I don't think it's working 100%. In fact, I've not updated it yet. I downloaded it when I first heard of it, and I've not updated it yet. So maybe it has been rectified. So you'll have to look at that. But pulse stretch is really good if you make ambient music and you want to create some textures and background and stuff. You know, just things in the background to give atmosphere. Pulse stretch is really, really good. You can just play in some chords and maybe oversample something over the top of that. Maybe some vocals, weird vocals over the top, backwards vocals and stuff. That's what I mess around with. And then bung it through pulse stretch. Pull it back into Reason and just have a mess around with it. And you can get some really nice textures for that kind of music, you know, ambient-y stuff and what have you. So yeah, pulse stretch, look out for that one. I may as well roll through some of this shit I've got in here because which one's brought it up. Yuhi devices. Yuhi's, yeah, he's quite good. I fell out with him personally a bit about a bug in this software that he didn't rectify. And you know, when you buy something, you pay a fair bit of money for it. You should rectify it, but he kind of shunned and kind of passed blame to propeller head slightly. And anyway, I'm not getting into that either. But yeah, they've got some good VST synths out. I will say, like Diva and stuff like that. Everybody will know Diva and whatnot. I think it's like a modelled. It's got a few. It does a few different synths, if I remember rightly. Anyway, he's got some good stuff. I'm not knocking the guy completely for not fixing his software, but T2 Phaser, I bought that initially because I wanted to try and get like a Phase 90 type of sound for like an old guitar phaser pedal sound. I messed around with it a bit and yeah, alright. But then I'm not selling it because you can clearly see just above T2 Phaser I've actually got Synapse 90 vintage phaser. This, which is actually, you know, it's kind of modelled on a 90, so it's a really good phaser, that. And that's a good EQ for mastering as well. The Synapse GQ7. I use that in the mastering train. I'm not sure if I've got it in this mastering train for this track. I'll have a quick check. Yeah, halfway at the top. If I expand all this lot. Yeah, that. Well, this track isn't even finished yet, so there's a lot. Yeah, these I'll run you through it just to give you a brief explanation because you've not really got any experience in music production or anything. But I'll give you a run down in a second. Yeah, well, basically this is the master section. This is okay. Let's go at the top. I'll explain it at the top. If we look up here, the master section, we've got the main audio outputs. Right now, if I flick the rack around, I'll just complicate things even more. But what I've got is the master out doesn't actually go straight out. It goes down to my, it's like a loudness meter for metering and so on. And an important thing in music production and Reason is you want your maximizer after that master out as well. Otherwise, that can cause funky things to happen when you bounce your tracks down and stuff. Anyway, that's another tutorial on mastering and stuff. This is an old mastering setup, or an older mastering setup, which will be about a year ago, which is the age of this track when I first started. So I've got a Synapse GQ7 graphic equalizer in there. I've got the stereo It's called Stereo Splitter. It's a great rack extension. It's not expensive. It's relatively cheap, but it's really good for widening the sound. And this, I haven't got any settings in this version yet. I'm sure I've got a later version of this track somewhere where I've actually dialed the EQ in. I've dialed this stereo splitter in. But this stereo splitter I actually use it predominantly for widening. That's its main use type of thing. For widening the sides and so on. And then I've got like a blanket reverb in there. Well, I call it a blanket reverb. It's probably not a technical term for it. It's just like a warming reverb, what you kind of put across the whole track to give to. You don't put much on it though. You just put a tiny little bit, so it's hardly even noticeable. But it can gel all your tracks together quite nicely. But that's more for ambient-y stuff, really, that I use it for anyway. That technique. And then I have this 4-dyne I like this because, yes, fair enough, as I just said there, when you're mixing your track, you should have, you should be balancing your, from your high treble end and right down to your low bass end. If you're mixing it right, you're going to get the balance right anyway. But what I find is this 4-dyne, it's really useful for listening, keying in on the specific parts, so you can solo up to like one band of 4, across the frequency range. I really like that, to hear what's going on in individual bands. Sometimes I'll even use it. I'll mix the track or even master it, and I'll get to a point where I think, oh, that character's quite nice. But I wonder if I just change this, if I change this high end a little bit or the mid range a little bit, and I can do that with it without messing anything up. You know what I mean? I can just have a mess around, and I can just take the track in different places with it. This next one, which I've got minimized, it's a part of the Reason software itself. This is set on hi-fi with about 50% wet dry, and about 2 o'clock on transform. And what that does is, it's a little bit like that reverb. It's like a blanket thing. It just kind of puts its own like sound, its own feel across the whole track. Again, I don't use that much, but as you can see, it's bypassed the minute, so that's actually been skipped in this master and bus chain. Then from there, it goes in the Ozone maximizer. Now I use different maximizers, but Ozone I generally use the most. Everybody knows, Ozone stuff. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, I've just got it on 0.1, I think. Yeah, I've got it on minus 0.1. Well, what it's doing is it's limiting. When I first started the stream, I had me master bus bypassed, so there was basically what was happening, or effectively could have happened, is I could have been clipping, but I enabled it. I checked it and I enabled it. And what's happening here is it's this margin is just not letting anything go over minus 0.1 dB. That's all that is, and it's just like a barrier to stop clipping. But I will say, when you're mastering and mixing, well, sorry, not so much when you're mastering because you're doing it anyway, but when you're mixing, never ever have this on. So never ever have your maximizer on when you're actually mixing, because you'll just mess things up. Honestly, take me word for it. Leave it on bypass. Of course, at the minute I'm too lazy. I want to leave it on because I don't want to be clipping for people listening to this stream. I don't want it pushing anything out over the top. So then below that, you'll see there's a flower loudness. It's like basically a loudness meter, and what that does is that'll give me an overall idea of where I am. on this dynamic range front, and this, in the dynamic range wars, which is running heavy. It has been for years. So all of that goes through there, and then it eventually hits that loudness meter, and then I can get an idea of where I am. I've played back, we'll see where we are with the mix actually, because that master bus is on. But then again, there's nothing programmed in the master, so it'll sound like a heap of shite probably. And I'll be able to talk much either. But you can see at the start there, -20. As the levels start to lift, you'll see it decrease. Got down to about -9, which is kind of where I've ended up on. Well, it just depends on what kind of music you're doing as well. Like different genres command different, rock and the likes will go down to like -7 and stuff like that. So you've got all that master and chain, and then what you've got is I'll have to drag this up. I'll go full screen on this. Yeah, well, what I've done is I've got the magnifier on, but it's just an absolute pain. Every time you go near the edges of the screen, it starts flashing around all over the place, and it was kind of doing me head in a bit. I could have been streaming, because it's not gaming anything, it's not pushing anything. I could have been streaming this in 4K actually. Which I'll probably do. I'll probably do that. I mean, I ramped up the audio quality so that hopefully the audio quality is not bad enough, but I put it up to the maximum OBS, which is 320, I think. I just use 128 for gaming, streaming and stuff like that, but I put it up as high as I could just for this. The audio quality will still be probably a bit crappy, but yeah, well, I've turned it down a bit now. Like, I've turned it right down so it doesn't interrupt with you. So anyway, all that stuff was for the master, and that's on the end of everything. So that's on the output side of things, okay? That's where you're pushing all of your music through, all of your tracks, and then all of your tracks are here where I've just maximized there. So if we start at the top, you can see here I've started with a vocal, but I haven't actually started with a vocal. What I've done is I've actually started with chords and so on, which is the blue track, maybe 4 or 5 tracks down here, from 4 tracks down from the transport. So what I've done is I've started with actual music first, and then later, or near the end, lower down, I've actually started putting vocals in. But when I'm working on vocals, I like to throw them all back up the top when I get to that stage. So I just dragged all the vocal tracks up to the top. I don't have to, it's daft because I can just scroll down to them, but I just like them up there. I don't know why, it's just the way I am. So yeah. So what you can see here is up at the top in the vocals track, if I select it, the pink bit the little pink bit next to my mouse pointer, if you can see that, that's the audio sample. And what I've got in after that, below that, which is affecting that, is automation for level. If I double click on it, it'll open it up and you can see we have drawn in some automation for level. So I've actually, there's a little dip in there, probably part of me vocal, which was a bit kind of crappy, what I probably didn't want in there, so I've dipped it back. Me, it's, I'll solo it and you can hear it. Yep, it's me singing as well. Right, I did, yeah, I squeezed me nads to get this. So there we go. I've soloed that. So that's basically that. Right, so anyway, where was I? There's more vocal down at the bottom, again in pink, because I like to see what, well, I use different colours, but they're muted. So what's happened is I've probably been messing around. In fact, yeah, I've been messing around. You see down here where it says vocals copy and vocals copy 3. I'm not sure if you can see. Yeah, well, anyway, down here, these 2 tracks are vocal tracks, but what I do is I have a habit of just doing loads of takes, and then what I do is I'll just call up on them. I'll just play them back and see what I like, and then I'll leave them in these 2 tracks. Now, the reason why I've got 2 tracks here, this is probably another tip as well. The reason why I've got 2 tracks is just the way I was working on the Zoom. Well, the Zoom level I was using. I would have been working at some reasonable detail, but so that's the reason why I've got 2 rather than having all the samples just in 1 track. I've got to scroll all the way to the right and all the way back to the left, so I just had 2 tracks. So yeah, that is just me just singing different keys, different notes, this, that, and the other, just different random things, different random words and whatnot. And then what I've done is I've just gone through them all and just selected the ones that I've wanted, or ones that I thought sounded interesting. Everything is playing from left to right. So what you have a transport control. If I drag it all the way back to the left, it'll play from far left, which is hang on a sec. Right, so it'll basically start at bar 1, far left, and then it'll end on bar, what you can't read, about 145 or 144, something like that, whatever it is. So it'll play from left to right. The transport control will just move at the tempo that you have set. So for me, this is set at 120 BPM, which is kind of where I start with nearly all the tracks I do. Yeah, so all of them vocally things are things that I've done when I had the music, the body of the actual music laid down. The reason why I've done it that way is because when you've got the body of the music down, I think this will be in C minor, like most of the shit I do. So once I've got the body of the music down, I can mess around with my voice and just listen to them. I'll be playing it back at the same time and just vocalizing over the top of it and recording at the same time. just different things, and that's what why I end up with like loads of little takes like what I've got there. And then, like I say, I'll just listen to different things, and I'll take what I like, and I'll leave what I don't. And what I don't, I'm a bit messy, but then again, I've got plenty of hard space to store, and I don't care if it's a bigger file. It means in the future, if I want to change this or remix it again, I can go in and I can go back through all these and look and or listen and see what I like and see what I want to what changes I want to make. Put some new sounds in. I mean, I can't even remember where was. Let's have a look. So we've got this other part here. Right, it starts actually way down. Right, so what you've got is you've got your transport bar starts at the far left, and that as soon as you press play, it starts to run from left to right for all tracks. So all these tracks here you're looking at, they're all in line. So you can actually see this is what they call like compositional. It's a compositional layout. So this is your basic composition. So I've got at the start here, this whole track doesn't start with vocals at all, actually. It starts, if I remember rightly, with pad sounds. Yeah, cinematic strings down here, which is yeah, it starts down here. So I'll just play it to confirm it. There you go. You see the transport bar moving, and it's playing through those chords. And then other stuff started to come in. I've got a bass sound. As you can hear, obviously that's got a level control on it as well. Bass automation, which you can see here. This is all bass automation here, so I've got effects, levels, got those ones. So yeah, it's all running from left to right, and it's just like a video. You know what I mean? If you tell your story from playing at the start, and as it rolls through, the story unfolds, and that's the way you kind of arrange music. Yeah, but yes, but exactly. Now, if I unmuted those two tracks, then yes. Yep. Well, that's what I was just saying before. Those two tracks, the ones with the pink vocals that are right at the very start, you would think, all right, okay, they're going to play. Well, both of those tracks are muted, and like I was just saying before, they're all those little snippets that I was experimenting with. Do you get us now? Right. So they're basically things I recorded, just random things I recorded. But right, well, that's just me. I've probably at some point when I've been making selections, I've probably thought to myself, I'll use that, or I'm interested in maybe possibly using that one, and so I don't have to keep playing every single one again and going through. I just if I right click, I'll change and watch. I'll change those two dark purple ones. So there you go. There you go. Yeah. Well, this is all part of the creativity of Reason, and the reason, you know, why I like it so much, especially for arranging, because you'll find your own way, but when you start mixing and mastering and Reason and stuff, making music, laying your individual tracks down, you just kind of. I'm quite lazy as well. I mean, I've actually named some of these, but a lot of the actual tracks will actually show, you know, the patch name that I used. You know what I mean? It's like, it allows you to build up your own system and create things your own way. And colouring things is a good way to actually, you know, remind you of what's what, just on a visual level. Some things as well, I've got a note attached, like along here. This orange thing, which I've just highlighted, that is reversed. Okay, so it's basically a passage that I've done somewhere else that I've just reversed, and I played it back, and I'll probably liked it or whatever. But what I'll generally do, it never ever works perfectly. I'll alter it. I'll alter the bits what don't sound right until it does sound right. So, but I've put a little note on there to state, you know, that's that little section is reversed. And then elsewhere, I've got that one, I've called it main melody, and then I've copied and pasted that, as you can see, because there's the one identical right to the next door to that, to the right, called main melody as well. And this is that passage by itself. And in fact, that's got a little bit of a gate going on. But that sound in itself, it doesn't sound much, but overall, yeah. You hear how everything was catching up there? Well, what's happening is, as I unmute that individual track, unmute everything, sorry, in the whole track, everything has to catch up again. It won't, you know, it'll only play what you're commanding it to play, and then of course, you know, everything else catches up, and the kind of exactly. So that's, but it's logical when you think about it, because that's the way you've put that information down in the sequencer. And, you know, certain notes are at certain times on certain tracks with certain effects applied to them, you know, certain key and all the rest of it. You know, that'll only trigger when the transport bar gets to it, for obvious reasons, you know, because the story must go forward, mustn't it? So, you know, I mean, yeah, you can, if you want, jump the transport around if you want, you know, automate it. But anyway, yeah, you can automate the I'm not going to go into that, that's another video. But anyway, so yeah, the meaning of this video was originally to mess around with Rob Papens' go2 synth. It's a new synth, but the stream header that I made for it indicates just all kinds of stuff, just general messing around and Reason, and, you know, explaining bits and bobs about it as well. Alright, so you've messed around with Fruity Loops, have you? Alright. Okay, well, you see, Fruity Loops and me don't really get on. I mean, it's not bad, it's quite good, but it's just, I just didn't. That's another thing that I've never liked, has been this DAW snobbery that you get. You know, there's certain people, well, they'll only do Pro Tools, you know, and they'll only do this and only do that. I hate that, because, you know, it's ultimately your DAWs, it's just an extension of you and what you want to do with a specific, you know, specific task. You know, with music, I just find making music and Reason's just. But then again, I know it. I know Reason. So exactly, but yes, but I've also got the advantage of, you know, using Cubase in the past, and that's kind of like the way most sequencers will even work to this day. So, you know, I mean, the only if people wiped off, if people wiped Reason off the face of the planet, I think the only other door I would ever go for would be Ableton Live. You know, it's just because personally, the way I feel in this day and age, right? Because we've got to remember that, you know, we need tools that are going to let us be as creative as possible without any restrictions. I believe that that Reason and Ableton are the two most creative tools you can get, really, for making music. Yeah, I mean, yes, people say, oh, but Reason didn't used to have VSTs, and yeah, but it has now. You know what I mean? It's like, I can understand why Propeller had stayed with it, but at the same time, I actually said when they announced they were bringing out VSTs in version 9, I actually said, I'm not bothered. I'm not really missing anything. The only thing, well, I had an Access Virus TI2 desktop synth. So anyway, I was using that via a thing called MIDI controller, and here it's just like a MIDI interface thing you drag into your track, and then you can have an audio input in your sequencer assigned with the audio from the virus. So you know, when you obviously want to sequence and you want to record it. So I had all that in the go, and I had my default template every time I opened Reason, automatically had the virus in ready to go. You know what I mean? Because I generally start with that. If I wasn't starting with Expanse or something else or whatever. So I was used to that workflow. Exactly the same with Serum as well. Serum is it's a VST synth. It's a really good synth. You've probably heard it on pretty much every piece of music you've ever heard on the charts and God knows what. But anyway, Serum I used in what they call a VST wrapper. So it's a separate piece of software that you load the VST plugin into, right? Now, because I've got a few audio interfaces, I actually had one audio interface assigned specifically to that device, or to that VST wrapper with Serum contained, and then I had two hardware audio out, left and right, going out with it, and then going into the other interface. Perfect, absolutely perfect Reason. It even gave Serum a nice warmth, like a hardware synth warmth, you know what I mean? Because obviously you're going from the digital domain to analog and then back into the digital domain again, you see? So I keep right clicking this mouse because I've got to hold the middle mouse button to push the top. So yeah, that's VSTs for you. But I wasn't bothered. I mean, I was happy, you know, with using the virus. Yeah, I've came around to it now mainly because of the likes of Valhalla and stuff, and these Sound Toys tool plugins and so on as well, which I absolutely love. Sound Tools VST plugins are absolutely unreal. So if I was anybody buying Reason 10 now, I would buy Reason 10, right? I would buy the Sound Tools full package. It's about 500 quid or something for the whole lot. I would buy that first, and then I would buy at least 2 Valhalla reverbs. That's where I would start. And that, well, oh man, you don't want to know. Well, you do. The thing is, though, you know, Sound Toys plugins, they're up there, man. They're up there. A lot of them are modelled on specific old hardware as well, you know, a lot of that old analog stuff, like delays and what have you. Echo Boy is one of my favourites. Is it Devastator? Decapitator, sorry, I got mixed up with a D16 plugin there, which I've got. Yeah, Decapitator, that's another good device. And Crystallizer is another brilliant device as well. Oh, that's something completely different, I think. It's a different, it's just been named the same thing, or, you know, just a coincidence. It will be, yeah, it'll be. But all these here, these are expensive things as well. The soft tube, look, the FET compressor, I think that was about 150 quid. And the SAR reverb, that is an absolutely awesome reverb as well, especially for well, live instruments as well. I mean, I use it on loads of stuff, but specifically on vocals and stuff like that, it's really good. It's quite heavy on the CPU though, mind. It's not you know. No, I mean, the thing is with reverb and stuff, you can bounce stuff. You see, you can bounce stuff. So you know, I mean, I like my computer where I don't have to keep bouncing stuff all the time. As you can see, all my tracks are open and they're all hardware synths. The only audio that I'm working with in here is obviously the vocal tracks that I've made. But all the rest is actually software synths running. And I don't know, let's go to a busy part in the whole track. And this is quite a busy track, so I'm running on about 2 or 3 on the DSP bar, so not the DSP bar, so okay. But that's just me. The reason why I like having the advantage of having a 16-thread processor to be able to do this is because I don't like anything interrupting my workflow, and if I had to bounce a load of these software synths down to audio and then disable the software synths individually just to gain some CPU performance but doing the rest of the track, then what that means is I get to a certain point and I think, oh shit, I kind of want to change that. But I've already applied a delay, I've already applied a reverb to it, and I might have changed some of the aspects of the synthesizer itself. I might have changed, a bit of filter, a bit of cut off, or maybe the LFO rate or whatever. I've made changes, you know what I mean? And I don't like the idea of thinking, right, for me to go back to there to alter that sound, I need to reload that synth. I need to reload that custom patch I just made. I need to look at the custom patch. I need to try and remember what effects I've applied to it. All the settings for each effect I had applied to it. I don't want to have to do all that. I just want everything to work. And that's that, basically. I mean, I don't mind having a crap ton of samples left in the track because they're not taking up CPU. They're just sitting there, you know what I mean? They're just taking up memory and whatnot, which I've got enough anyway. But anyway, they don't because it's muted. It's not playing them back. It's not. It does. The software will ignore them. It'll only play back the tracks that you have active and that you want playing back. Which is obviously it's logical, isn't it? So yeah, the soft tube stuff is well worth buying. That one in the middle is called Soft Tube Saturation Knob. It's free. Download it off the Propellerheads website. It's not a VST. It's a rack extension. So you can download that free, and it's really good for saturating things. I like using it on basses and stuff. It's good. You see, this is the problem, right? I'm gonna run through these tools I bought here, and I'm gonna say I've got a big problem here because all of these tools I've bought, everything's got a use and everything is good and is used occasionally. I may not use it all the time, but it's good. And when I want something that's going to do that, like a specific task, then I'll jump on it. So pretty much everything I've got here is good. Selig, his gear is awesome. There's a leveler there which is good for the vocals. Fair enough, there's another way you can do vocals as well for leveling them. Yeah, you can use compressions and stuff to lift up the quiet sections, but you can go in manually as well if you want, and just select individual parts and bring the level up. But Selig leveler is a really, really clever thing. Again, that's a whole video in itself. Selig gain is really handy as well, especially for when you're mastering stuff. And last but not least, Selig de-esser, really good for your vocals. So when you're recording and you've got and things like that, you can effectively remove stuff like that. Then above that, we've got quadletter. That's the stereo splitter, which I use for widening and stuff. For widening though, what I do is I have on other tracks anyway. I haven't got it on this particular track's mastering section, but I've got the stereo splitter. It generally goes out to here. It's called Faturator by Kilohertz. I just use that basically for the widening, the stereo widening, the stereo field. I use that. What else have I got in there? Reactor 6, it's basically a thing where you build your own synth. It's outside of Reason, it's a VST by Native Instruments. Really, really good. In fact, I just upgraded it recently. I think it was on offer for, was it 100 quid or something, or to upgrade to Reactor 6. It's good. You would love that because you can actually wire everything up. It's like, fair enough, you're not going in the component level, but on a modular synthesis type of way, yes, you are. And in fact, no, hang on a minute, I could be wrong here, because I think you can actually go in on like a hardware kind of level, because there's a lot of programming side of things you can do with it as well. It's not just a graphical interface for making synths and stuff. It's good. I made a little, I think I made a little 2 oscillator synth and 3 LFOs, a few filters, and I had fun. It's just like anything else, and you know what I mean. You get used to it. The interesting thing about this is it's a soup, and it's a say of learning. I mean, I don't know it all. You know what I mean? I'm still learning every day with music and stuff. I mean, obviously, I've acquainted myself with all these things I've bought. Yes, I mean there was 1 or 2 things that I've bought. I'm just looking through them that I haven't used much. No, not a case of why the hell did I buy that. A case of when the hell will I use it again. This here, Amplification Vermilion. It's a guitar amp. Now I've got a few guitars, and the only time I ever really use guitars nowadays is if I use guitars in my music. I use a thing called an E-bow. It's called an E-bow, and what it does is it's an electronic device, right? You put a 9-volt battery in it, and what it does is it's an electromagnetic thing, and what it's got grooves in the bottom of it, and you place them over your guitar strings on whatever string you want to be playing, and what it does is it resonates the string. So that's exactly what it is. It's an electronic bow. It's just like pulling the bow over the string and, you know, grinding it, basically. Bands like Depeche Mode use the E-bow. Martin Gore used the E-bow a lot on guitar parts and stuff like that. God, loads of different bands. I think U2 have used E-bows a bit as well. Beautiful effects, and absolutely beautiful if you do ambient music as well. Because here's a little tip for you: if you do ambient stuff, just mess around again. If you know what key your music's going to be and whatnot, just play a few notes in time, to the tempo of your track or whatever. Doesn't have to be anything particular. With the E-bow, okay. So play a few notes in and record, and then drop it into pulse stretch, which I was mentioning earlier on, and like it's mind bending. It's like it just it goes a little bit granular. Actually, it's almost like a granular synth, but like from there you can actually mess around and add more delays or whatever you want, reverbs and stuff over the top of it, and you just get these massive washes and blankets of sound. It's almost music in itself, just listening to the shit that goes on in them and whatnot. So that's a little tip. E-bow, play it and get your levels right. Export it into pulse stretch. Stretch it whatever you want in pulse stretch. The settings are really simple. Pull it back into Reason. Put it in, and you can quantize it all as well. Just right click on it and select quantize, and then it'll kind of put everything in time, so to speak, and then play it back, never mess around with it. And then it doesn't end there, because within Reason as well, if you hold Control, I'll show you. So at the end of my vocal sample here, right, I'm going to solo it out, which I've just done. I'm going to play it back, and we can hear it's just me singing at my own pace with no alterations. If that was pulse stretched, right, it would be something really bizarre, okay? And then you can put it in here, and if you think, well, I want to just try a bit more, you can stretch it in here further as well. Just hold the control down, in the right arrow, there's a little black triangle thing on the right hand side of your sample, or that clip, and then drag it out the right. I'll show you. So select your clip, hold Control and put your pointer over, and it turns to a time, and then just left click and hold and drag it out. So there you go. I've just stretched that. It's very similar to pulse stretch, but I just like pulse stretch. I like using that. Now we can hear what it sounds like. Yeah, that's me going, ooh. So there you go. That's stretched even more. It's another thing I like to do as well, I like the reverse stuff. There you go. That does sound like I was squeezing something on an animal. I probably was at the time. So there you go. It's just a little bit tip. So yeah, so your music goes from left to right, blah blah blah. You put all your tracks in. I like to start generally with drums first, or a melody first. Once I've got a melody that I like, then I'll start messing around with drums, fit the thing together. Then what I'll do as well, I'll start making variants of that melody for alternate melodies and loads of other things, fills and stuff. Then you got to mess around with your drum tracks and your drum clips and so on, altering them just to give them variation. But again, that's more personal taste. Some people just start with vocal. They'll just sing, and then they'll start and they'll start writing the music on top of that. Some people traditionally will start with drums specifically. They'll do a whole drum track, and then they'll start doing all the rest. You know, it just depends. You know what I mean? It depends on the way you work. Really, it's just workflow. It doesn't matter, because what you find is you bounce off things when you're making music. You kind of you could start with the bass line even, you know what I mean, and you sit and you program a quick bass line in, and you play it back and you think, right, well, that's got that kind of feel to it, so then you can actually probably work straight into a drum track from that, and then you can feed in melodies into it, and you can work that way if you want to. You know what I mean? Reason, that's another thing why I like Reason so much, because it kind of allows you to work whichever way you want to work to suit, you know, the way you want to work. And if you're working the way you want to work, that's good workflow, isn't it? You know what I mean? You're doing everything the way you want to do it, which is good. You move along quicker. Right, so this is where you program all your music and you program your automation. Automation is things like levels and so on. So volume levels, is, you know, your fade and stuff in and whatnot. Another little tip is as well, don't always use volume fade-ins to bring in a track. Use a filter as well. Automate a filter. Another good way of bringing tracks in. It's quite nice. Let's have a look where we get. Right, so here we've got however many tracks that is. About 14 or something tracks there, whatever. So this is it's modeled on an SSL desk. So you know that mastering bit I was telling you about before, this goes a little bit before that. It's got a master bus compressor up at the top right there. You can see it's an analog needle showing thing. You've got at the very top, this input is for gain staging and so on, so it's for getting your levels right on inputs and stuff. But my way of thinking is, you know, get your levels right to start off with. You don't even mess around with gain staging and stuff. Then your dynamics section is after that. You've got compressor there and a gate. You've got a spectral EQ. You've got your typical low pass filters and high pass filters there as well, and you can see which ones I've enabled on my track. Typically, you see in music production as well, you know, you'll be, well, I do anyway, as I'm doing each individual track, right, I've generally designed the sound myself, so I'll know what the characteristics of it are. Sometimes I'll even, you know, filter stuff out in the actual synth or whatever, but sometimes I'll do that obviously in this this mixer itself. So if, for instance, if I'm playing a high, like a melody, like a treble thing or something, straight away I'm in there. And if you look at this Spectrum EQ here, I don't know what track it is, it's on one of them anyway. You'll see I've got a high pass filter enabled, so whatever track that is, I'm actually cutting off some of the low frequencies in that individual track. And I generally do that as I'm working. So as I'm playing each individual track, I'll apply some filtering of sorts to remove what I want to remove, and likewise in reverse for the bass. For the vocals as well, I'm normally like using like a band. You know, I'm taking a bit off the top and taking a bit off the bottom. Yeah, with bass, obviously, then it becomes a low pass filter and so on, which I could probably demonstrate if I select a different track. That's all high pass. That's like a high pass with a little bump there. You can see in it, I've got a little bell going on. There, you see, if I click on the bass automation, right, well, anyway, that's got a low pass filter on it. High pass. All this does is, is it clean, because what you find is, when a sound stops, the MIDI notation in the sequencer, as the sound stops, right, there'll be a tail, maybe you've got some reverb on it, and there'll be a tail coming off that. Sometimes you may even have some low frequencies in that, and when it's tailing off in a quiet section, and it kind of are generally they're things that I'll generally pull out with these filters. And likewise, if I'm doing like bass heavy music and stuff, I'll have a low pass on. I'll still be letting higher frequencies through on that. Because a lot of the bassy stuff I do, it'll be like, well, basically sub bass. Right, sub bass has a lot more presence, I feel anyway. If you don't take too much away, if I drag this too far to the left, if I drag it too far to the left, right, you're taking too many higher like transients away from the sound, the higher pitch stuff, and that's often where you get the full effect from bass. Sounds weird, but it's true. With sub bass, a lot of people aim for the really chunky sub basses and stuff like that. Well, yeah, that's all well and good. You can make things vibrate and stuff, but you need detail in there. And the problem is, really low frequency stuff is hard to get any kind of detail in. So you need to have like a higher pitch detail. That's my way of explaining it anyway. Other people could probably explain it differently, but it's good with sub bass to have those higher bits left in. You want some higher pitches left in low frequency stuff. You get, but again, this all blends into your actual sound design, because if I'm making my own sub basses and sub boom bass and stuff by Rob Papens, I'll actually, I'll pretty much do everything in there anyway. So I'll generally not even be messing around with low pass filters on this mixer. So next, where we're going next, you've got effect sections where you can put your insert effects in there. Yeah, and then you've got, I mean, you can barely even see this. I've got a few different things already bunged in here on the returns. I've got that Ubik A is one of them Yuhi devices, or that guy I've had a bit of a Barney with once. Echo board, that's another awesome delay. It's a really weird delay that it's funky for all kinds of tricks. That's why it's pretty much in me returns. The Echo, that's a Reason resident device that comes with Reason 10, or I believe it does. Deep reverb, that's Synapse. That's a really good reverb. I use that for all my ambient stuff. Deep reverb, and I'm using a lot of Valhalla Shimmer. That's R1. That's that soft tube reverb I was telling you about before. If you play guitar, acoustic guitar, stuff like that, if you sing, honestly, get that. It's absolutely awesome. Steer Pike, that's a delay as well. Chenille, he's got some good devices, delays and stuff. And that's Simple Stereo Widener. I believe that's actually just, I'll have a look. Yeah, it's Polar. Polar, I'm not sure, did they ever bring that out free with Reason? It's a propeller device, but I can't remember. I bought it, but I can't remember if I ended up giving it away free. Or then maybe they gave it away in an offer when you upgraded or something, I don't know. But you'd have to investigate that. But that's really good as well. Doesn't look much on the face of it, but it's awesome for, like, I use it on low pitched sound, like vocal pitch shift and stuff, and that I get things weird and out and stuff. What else? I've got a basic side chain as well. That pump, which was beta testing. I think it's just a basic side chain there. I know it's just initial patch, but I'm sure I would have maybe altered it a bit. Maybe not, but if I click on the initialize patch thing there, if I click on the patches, we'll see the patches pop up on the left. And there you go. That's where the patches are made for it, which you included. So if you buy that, you get the patches that are made as well. You'll probably have a laugh at my naming brain as well. Right, I need to sort something out for this magnifying tool thing. I need to find something more useful that isn't going to flick all over the screen. I'll sort it out. Oh, I'll just stream in. Well, 4K is probably not ideal for everybody. So yeah, that's what you've got. You've got those returns, which you can apply any of your tracks to those. You just enable it by enabling it in the return section on the sends, and then you apply the level, and you can, like, for reverbs and stuff like that, there's a pre there as well, or for any that you have assigned in there. So on the back, as you can see here, this is how I've wired them all in. Got the FX send and returns there, so you can see them on the master section. Zoom in a little bit so you can see, and then you can see obviously FX send 1, it's going into UBIC A, and then it's going out, and then it's going back into the return. So obviously that's specific to this track in particular. What happens is, you see, when you're actually making music and so on, and you're laying your tracks down, what have you, this is what grows. Your FX sends and returns grow, or that's the way I work. I have some templates that always have like a default bunch of stuff in that I use a lot, but what I find now is I'm adding stuff as I'm going along, because I think, oh, that sound, oh yeah, I'll put this delay on that. I might put a steer pike on it or something, or I might want to put Valhalla on. Interestingly, this track hasn't got any Valhalla shimmer on it, which is amazing for me, because most of my stuff has. Yeah, it doesn't have any. So, but that's pretty much kind of it in a nutshell, really. The rabbit hole goes a lot deeper, but in a nutshell, that's it. You put you lay all your tracks down, you write all your music. You can go in individually. You can either play manually, record, use quantize to get you back in time and all. Because if you want to be in time, you might want to, a little bit of human error in there. That's all in here, by the way. in the tool window across to the right, you can change things for your quantizing and stuff. You can put a randomization on it, on ticks and stuff. So yeah, you can do that, right? You see, you can play melodies in, record them that way, or you can go in and write them in MIDI notation. I'll do it for you to show you. So I'll zoom in. Hope you can see that better. So yeah, you can either record, okay, that's playing it manually, right? As you can see, the notes have popped up in the sequencer there. Or you can draw a clip in first, okay, by double clicking in the track. Drag it out to wherever you want. I generally like I like to work in 8 bars if I'm working with like melodies or whatever. Or just always seem to stick with 8 bars. And it's good to stick to 8 bars, I find, anyway, or 4, whatever. Depends on what you're doing. Just for arranging later. And you'll find that most music, if you analyze it and dissect it, it's all like 4, 8, 16 bars, you know. I'll normally make a bunch of 8-bar loops. In fact, I've got a folder crap ton full of 8-bar loops. So yeah, so we've created that clip, we'll double click on it, and that brings us to the MIDI editor. And then you can go in and you can manually draw things in. And again, it works from right to left. Okay, but you've got an actual keyboard layout there to give you a visual representation, visual idea of what you're programming or what you're writing in here. So that moves across as well. If you look at the colouring of the actual track as well, you can see that the sharps and flats are dark. It just makes things easier if you want to get an idea, rather than having to be working in the middle of there somewhere and have to keep looking over to the left and then running your eye along to try and make sure it's good. Take it from me, it's good. So just double clicking in there, it'll just place a note in. Okay, you can adjust its length just by dragging it out. And then, of course, you can put another one in if you want for chords, for instance. You go, man, this is terrible to work with. This magnifier thing that makes your mouse really funky. Another quick way, hold Control and just drag it up. There you go. And then you've just recreated the same note rather than having to, Bottom here, you've got your velocity. Because obviously we've programmed it in, we don't actually have a velocity. Velocity is normally recorded when you're manually playing. So if you're manually playing music on a keyboard with aftertouch, it'll record things like aftertouch. Nearly all controller keyboards have got velocity. Velocity is just how hard you hit the key, and then the sequencer will record that. So that's the thing you got to be careful of when you're writing stuff like this. It's great for drums and stuff like that, and well, anything really, but with drums it's fine, you don't have to worry about this so much. Yeah, maybe because you can hit drums harder, you can hit them softer, so yeah, it kind of plays in the same the same idea. So yeah, if you're writing a melody or a chord structure or whatever, it's nice. Generally, it's nice to have different velocities, different aftertouch and stuff. Because then things get a more human feel. If you just stick with the default velocity all the way through the full track, you're just going to get like a, it's not going to be very dynamic. It's just going to trickle through. Yeah, it's not going to have any like dynamics to the sound. You know what I mean? And that's what gives interest. I mean, it's not just the melody, the different notes, the different pitches that you choose within the melody. It's the dynamics of each note that you program. So the volume of each note, you can, if you hear somebody like Rick Wakeman or somebody that cracking off a solo on his mini Moog, neither would I actually, but it's just but anyway, if you you'll hear there's a lot going on with aftertouch and stuff, and he's using the mod wheel and all kinds just to get expression in the thing, because that's the thing with synthesizers and stuff, they're notoriously difficult to get movement from, to get an expression from and stuff. It's not like a clarinet or something, you know what I mean, where you can just get this expression and stuff like that. It's harder, but saying that, nowadays there's loads of techniques that you can use in music production to get and apply like a nice feeling to your music. There's a lot of ways, and of course, there's things like gated sounds, like what that track you sent me to listen to earlier. I mean, it sounds good and all that, but it's just, well, that's what happens. You see, if you make a song and it's just repeating, then there's certain production techniques overused, and in that case, it's I'm not sure. It could even be sidechained that, like, because anyway, it's a gated sound, right? So you've got that typical gated sound that most dance music from the 90s right up to, they all use that technique, and they use other techniques like that hold and release thing as well, with using filters and whatnot for impact. And that's harking back to what I was just saying before, that trying to extract some kind of emotion out of that music and stuff, well, out of the person who was listening, out of the listener. But the really thing, the daft thing is a lot of the music that's being produced, a lot of that 90s dance music, and, well, the club music and stuff like that, they've got quite a lot of movement in them, and some of them are quite even emotional, like Airwave. Can you remember them, by Rank One? That's quite a nice, almost modern day classical piece of music. That it's quite nice. Yeah, it was a good track for back then. But you see, what happens is you get, oh yeah, but yeah, they did. I mean, yeah, they done well. I don't like using filters on that filter effect on vocals much. It's just too done, all EDM stuff is out these days. They still use it, and that's what I'm saying. It's like back in the days of Airwave and stuff, those beautiful chord structures and whatnot, they generally weren't even played in manually. They were generally programmed in. So that's where music production technique takes over. If you sit and program in a chord in a sequencer, you've got to find an experiment for ways to get, nice, like get an emotional response from the listener. And with that, you can use, like I say, filters and all the rest of it, gated sounds and what have you. The gated sounds on, that are generally on keys and stuff, like chords and what have you, pad sound and stuff. Yes, they generally a gate. But then again, a lot of the technique of that and how that came about is actually, I think it harks back from the Wartown days. I'm trying to cast my mind back to this. I knew a story about that, but I can't be 100% accurate in what I say about it, so I'll shut up. But anyway, they use sidechaining. So there's a few different ways you can use it. That's what I like about sidechaining. There's a few different ways you can use it. You can use it with from the bass. You can use the bass to sidechain pad sound, which is quite common. So as the bass kicks in, it'll drop the sound of the pad. You know what I mean? And then you get this like pumping effect. So that pumping effect is just like a gated type of effect. So there's loads of different techniques to get to the same ends, but like I say, that is all. It's all music production technique. You know what I mean? Which you've got to rely on when you're working with synthesizers, like software synthesizers and stuff. You've got to rely on the synthesizer sound itself, its dynamic properties and stuff. And then of course you rely on those other techniques. All kinds of stuff as well. Another thing is as well, I mean, with mixing, what I need to do with this track actually, even though if we looked at the actual the mixer again, you would probably say all the levels have got a green box around them. That means they've got an automation attached, but I need to mess around with more levels with automation, because it's alright setting your levels, yeah, it's alright setting, like, writing all your tracks, bass, drums, all the rest of it. It's alright doing all that and then just setting the level right, yeah, that's all well and good, but the problem is you need movement. And the way you can also get movement is not just with all this other stuff, like, you know, sidechaining and stuff. You get all this movement with volume changes as well, and that's where volume automation comes in. So you would automate the volume, obviously, just at the start of the track. You might start with drums, and you might gradually automate your volume for the drum track to roll in. Yeah, that's all well and good, and then the pads might start coming in gradually, you know, automate your volume for that. But again, you don't just stick with automating volume. You can use, like I say, you can put it through filter, just automate the filter, and kind of has a different kind of slant on just using the volume automator. And the rest is a jigsaw puzzle. The rest is just learning your tools, what they do. Look at what I would advise people to do is look at each individual thing you've bought, spend time with it, and get to know it, get to know what it does. I mean, generally, if you're in music production, you already know what compressors do and how to set them up and stuff for what you want. But a lot of these modern tools that we're getting these days have got weird names. You know, they've got weird functions. But a lot of them, in essence, are the same as more basic things. Like, for instance, Echo Board. It's a far out delay. You know what I mean? It does some really weird things. So it moves away from your basic stuff with delay, like, you know, the timing and stuff like that. It's that's the thing I like about it, though, Tron. I like to learn about not just new devices and stuff, but just it's hard because, well, it's different these days, because back yesteryear, when synthesizers started becoming dominant in music, right? So we're talking about the days of probably likes of I'm not going to say Jean-Michel Jarre, like, because everybody will just paste this, but you know, the likes of Kraftwerk and stuff, when synthesizers started getting used, it was a new thing. Synthesizers were a new thing. Gary Newman. Yeah, exactly. Everyone started. Now, Gary Newman, he heard them. He was a punk band. He actually he heard synthesizer for the first time, and then that was it. From then on, it completely changed his band, his music, and everything, and the rest history. But the problem is, we don't have that anymore. Do you know what I mean? All we've got is different genres, and that's what's happened. And it's all synthesizer based generally. So you got all these different genres spinning off each other. You got this massive soup with different styles of music, but what's going to happen next? It's not like where synthesizers first came along. They weren't here, and then all of a sudden they were here. What is there anything beyond a synthesizer? Because there isn't. Because we're talking about sound here. You know what I mean? All we can hope for now is new tools to do new things. But unfortunately, a lot of the stuff is kind of just an exaggeration of staple things, delays, reverbs. You know what I mean? That's something exaggerated like that. But interestingly, synthesizers and stuff, it's all like because a lot of them obviously soft synthesizers and hardware synthesizers, they have their own characters. They all have different electronics. They all have different programming, so they've got a different slant on things. All we're getting these days is just things with slightly different feels and timbres and stuff. But that's what I was just saying. I like new tools that do new weird things, because then you feel like you're not so much on the frontier type of thing, but just like, well, it's never going to be like the days when there was no synthesizers around, and then all of a sudden they were here and they were flipping in your face, and you're like, whoa, hang on. You know what I mean? It's never going to be like that again. But I mean, who knows? That you never know what might happen in the future. Well, yeah, this is what happens though, isn't it? It's like, clothes, the flares are in, and they're out, and then there's skinny jeans, and then and yeah. Yeah, jeans with holes in that, and there's you thinking, shit, I should never have thrown them jeans out because they're worth a shitload now. Anyway, but it's strange with music. I'm tired of clicking that right mouse button. It's strange with it's like, where are we now with music and stuff, like music production? Where does it go? This, what's happened as well, which is a little bit sorry and a bit sad actually, is you've got so many new tools coming out and so much competition. So they're all kind of doing a copy of what somebody else has done, but trying to do something else with it. You know what I mean? So it's rare. It's rare that people are bringing out something completely original and completely new. It's one of them things, isn't it? Well, sampling, it's still there. I mean, one of the really big VST synthesizers, Omnisphere, it's called. That's sample based actually. It does have synthesis in it as well. I don't own it, so I couldn't tell you how deep it goes on the synthesizer level of things, but it is sample based, because I think that is a massive thing. I mean, I think it comes on several CDs when you buy that. Yeah, people, well, that's it, you see. I mean, how many times have you, again, harking back to Gary Newman, I don't know why he keeps cropping up tonight, but harking back to Gary Newman, cars, how many times and how many different people have used samples from that track. God almighty, you know what I mean? It's just so... I don't mind it. I don't mind sampling. I don't like... I'm not too keen on covers, like, even though I've done covers myself, but when I do covers of anything, right, it's me testing. It's just for me. It's not for anything else. I'm just testing my music production skills. Yeah. It's just me thinking, oh, I'm curious. I wonder if I could do something with that and try doing it the same effectively, but doing it in a slightly different way, or even just investigating, you know, how something's been mixed, or you know how it's been made. It's interesting, you know. I mean, some tracks that I've done in the past that have been like a project that I've done. I've listened to a track and I thought, wow, I really like that, and then I'll just start and work on it. And really enjoyed it. And one of the tracks it's called "I'm God." That was me saying, look, it sounds good, yes. Because people were harping on about it on some forum somewhere. They were saying, this sounds awesome, this sounds awesome. I said, well, yeah, it sounds good. But you've got to remember, he hasn't actually asked the copyright owner to use their samples. And technically, it's not really even that difficult to do either. And I've pretty much done it in about maybe 2 hours. I just sat and riddled it out, and actually I loaded up. I've just I've had to release push to talk. I've got to scroll through. Right, there's a few different versions here. Yeah, we'll get part of that. I need to look at this because I did change it later. Yeah, I've done crap tons. This is just one. Oh shit. Oh no, it's there. I'm going to do something with this at some point. So that was just something I just seen there when I was looking for me track. So I thought I'd load it up. But just below that, let's look for the latest one I've done. Right, we'll see. All right. Yeah. So there's this one. slant on it at the end though. Right, so that's that. I'll switch headphones there. So yeah, basically that was maybe doing a track. It's called I'm God. Clams Casino. So that was my take on it. At the end there. So here you can see how we have chopped up samples and stuff. Samples of Imogen Heap. She's a singer, like a electronic-y, folk-y type of singer. She's really good. She does some good music. I've liked her for years, and when I first heard this, I heard the very start of the track is actually an Imogen Heap sample that he'd sampled, and then other parts of the track as well that he'd sampled. Yeah, so I kind of done that basically. Is that? I've got pretty much everything I need anyway now. So there at the top you see I've got the original track as a reference. That's another thing as well. What you can do is, you know, when I showed that dB meter earlier on, you can place a track that you like, the style of a track that you like, into the sequencer. And of course, from there you can gain detail, you know, like the what loudness they're using and so on, so you can see what dB rating they're pushing the master track to, and you can work your track to that as well. So that's a handy thing. You'll see there at the top the two muted tracks. So there they are. Reference track flower audio. So I've got, for some reason, I've got two reference tracks in there. Maybe one was going into one device and one was going into another, I think. And then I've just farted about with it, basically. God, I hate this stupid zoom tool. Yeah. Well, if I was using, that's the thing, you see, if I was using 4K, it's like, I don't even know how, I don't know how 1080 would downscale, how it would look, you know what I mean? It'd still be tiny. There's, for instance, that's some of the drums there. So that's like, what else have I got? I've got two subs going there that, like I say, one's probably emphasised the low end and one's emphasised the high end, because I do that with subs. I have, as I said earlier, I generally, it's not just one instrument or one sound, it's normally two. Normally a sound for the low end and another sound for the high end. Depending though, not all the time I do that, but that's like that bass. And all the looped samples and stuff are all further down. at the bottom there, and I've got automation in, you see. Automation drawn in here, pulling things in and dropping them out. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So many. You know, it's funny because most of these tracks will never ever be complete. There's a few other tracks they have remade, like Gary Newman Cars, what I thought of before, Replicas. Messing around making Polymoog sounds, which is an interesting thing because at one point I nearly bought a Polymoog to restore. But anyway, that aside, they're a big chunky beast of a synthesizer, and they only kind of produce one or two sounds that I'm kind of interested in. So you'd have a massive chunk of something that only kind of does one sound you want, and all it is, it's from Cars. It's a patch called Voximana. From Variety, that's what it's called, or Humana Voximana. Yeah, Voximana. And basically what it is it's from the program card that was in this Polymoog synthesizer, old analog thing. Cost shitloads at the time. Back in the day, I think they were 30 grand or something. You could buy a house for a big house for the same. But anyway, it's the Voximana sound is just basically two oscillators. There's one saw wave, and there's one square wave, and what you have is you have 3 LFOs, you have 2 of the pitches on a slowish LFO, but you also modulate the PWM. So the square wave, you alter the square wave with an LFO, and that gives this kind of weird movement. Well, again, that harks back to what I was saying earlier. When I was getting music, like movement in synthesizer sound, make them have some kind of feel and emotion, and that's how all that started. You know, back in the day, they were messing around with synthesizers, and they were using LFOs to get movement within the sound, so it's not just like a constant sawtooth just grinding on. It's got some flow to it. Where the hell am I? Let's have a look. I'm just having a look to see if there's any other Polymoog tracks I've been fiddling about with. Yeah, there's a lot. This is me fanning about with. I'm trying to get a Polymoog sound out of Thor by the looks of this. And I'm not sure how close I got. But as you can see there, I've got, yep, sawtooth on oscillator 1. I've got a square on oscillator 2. I've got that. Got 2 LFOs. Where's the third LFO coming from? Why have I not got a third LFO there? Oh, right, I'm probably using the same LFO. Oh, yeah, so I'm using LFO 1 for pitch, for oscillator 1 pitch. I'm using LFO 1 for oscillator 2 pitch, but then I've got different rates. So they kind of phase against each other, which I didn't really need anyway because the phasing comes from the phase out at the bottom here. And then LFO2, I've got at a slow rate and a slow amount, controlling pulse width on the square wave oscillator. And then that sound is goes into a chorus, I believe. It does a chorus. And then goes through this phase 90, which is based, like I say, on the famous old phaser from yesteryear, the MSR phase 90. Have a look. It's kind of sear in that, like, probably needs to be transposed down. Push it forward a bit. I got kind of close there, but you can never be 100% accurate. But yeah, it allows you to mess around and fiddle about and, you know, mimic synthesizers from yesteryear and stuff. And that synth is, yeah, that's exactly what it was. That's what it was trying to be. Of course, you know, I've just bunged the notes in there. They're nothing perfect or anything. It's not even the correct tempo, I don't think. But it was just some notes that I was playing back. And in fact, you look at the loop. I've got my loop markers there for when I'm working on the sound. So I'm just looping it constantly. If I activate the loop, it'll just keep looping between 2 points. And as that's looping, I'm actually working on the actual structure of the sound in the synthesizer itself until I get it sounding the way I want. That's another handy tip when you're working on sounds rather than just sitting going constantly hitting the keys. Just loop something. Just play a few notes, loop something. This is old hat, this though. I mean, I've even got an old 14.1 mixer there from ages ago, which just I rarely even use now. The only time I'll ever use a mixer like this is if I have a thing called a combinator, which I'll demonstrate really quickly. Which is in the instruments actually. Sorry, utilities for God's sake. So within the combinator, I can put a mix inside of the combinator. This is the power reason, you see. And then within that, I might think, oh, let's have a Rob Papens go2 synth, which is what the whole video was supposed to be about. So I can drop that in there. But I might say to myself, well, I want a wavetable synth as well. Or respire. I'll just put respire in. Oops, shit, I've just went over the top of that one. So I've got 2 synths now. If I hit a key, that's triggering both synths at the same time. Let's have a look. one track I've got 2 synthesizers now, which back in the day of hardware synthesizers was called layering. So they would have maybe a DX7, and then they would have a D50 or something, and then whatever else. They would lay them all, and they would have MIDI out to in, MIDI through, and then they would have all that going into a mixer. But with this, you have one device in a track, and then you just drag. I could sit here all evening and just keep putting more and more synthesizers into this one synth. So this is like, it's a collective of 2 at the minute. So you've got go2, Rob Papens, and Respire. Respire, like I say, incidentally, that's a hell of a synthesizer to buy. Quite pricey. I think, how much is Respire at the minute, John? It's I'm not sure if it's on sale at the minute or not. Yeah. 80 quid, is that on sale, yeah? Yeah. 170 quid, there you go. But it's on sale at the minute for 80 quid. It's worth getting. It's absolutely brilliant. I'll mute Rob Papens go2 for a second. Yeah. Again, it's a bargain. It really is a good price. But Respire, what I would say is, if you like the sound of like an Access virus, but you don't want to buy a hardware TI2, that's probably the next best thing. It's a 4 oscillator synth, 4 LFO. It's a powerful synth, but again, you hear people complain it can be a bit of a resource hog, but it's only a resource hog when you start pushing a lot of movement in this oscillators and stuff. So if you start enabling, like, if you have all 4 oscillators going with all 4 LFOs going, and things are going to get a bit strenuous for your processor. But it's an awesome synth, it really is. I'm glad they got around to including it as a rack extension. I mean, fair enough, you could buy the VST version and still use it in Reason, but in fact, let's have a look. I've not had a look in the back of Respire, so I think I might have done momentarily when I first bought it, but we'll see what additional stuff you get with that. Right, not much as it happens. You got stereo out. Click removal is on, whatever that's for. I don't know why they've put that there, but effects mute. Oh, that's handy. So you could just mute. Alright, okay. You can mute the phaser, chorus, delay, reverb, and so on. Take all of Respire's effects out, away from the sound, and then you can put your own in if you want to, which is what I do a lot of. In fact, some of the really cheap synthesizers. And now let's have a look. Right, here we go. These synthesizers here by SK Rock, a lot of them aren't necessarily synthesizers as such. They're more like a Rompler type of thing, where it'll be sample based. But I find by themselves they don't sound brilliant. They sound good. They're usable, of course, they're usable. But what I like to do with these devices is I like to disable all the effects on them, and I like to put them through really like high quality stuff like Chenille's delays and the likes of Synapse, Deep Reverb, and Valhalla Shimmer and other Valhalla reverbs and stuff. Then then it's awesome, because I run off a philosophy, an idea that a synthesizer really, again, I'm treading on fucking thin ice here, like in saying this, but I find with synthesizers, you're halfway there. If you're a synthesizer company developing synthesizers, you're halfway there. If you can bring out a synth with good effects, right? And a lot of synths that come out don't have good effects, unfortunately, and they flop because of that. And that's just the way it is. This is the reason why the only piece of hardware I've got left synthesizer wise is the Virus TI2 desktop version, because I didn't want any footprint. I wanted a small unit, but I still wanted the Virus synth because it's just fucking awesome, basically. Yes, expensive. It was like 1,500 quid or whatever it was, but it's got one of the best reverbs in any synth I've ever heard in my life. So yeah, but it's funny because it's VST driven as well. It uses it's like a VST editor, if you like. So how you operate it, you can either operate with the knobs on the unit itself if you're more tactile, hands-on person. You can operate it that way, which is a nice way to operate it. But if you want to be in the DAW all the time, it has access control software, so you just run the VST. Yeah, when you run the VST, you can change and alter and create your sounds from within the software rather than turning knobs on the synth itself. So that's an added bonus. But I tell you what, it's worth it. It's well worth it. You probably pick them up for probably £1,000 or something now, like. But yeah, it's a desktop model, desktop version. I did have a keyboard TI2, but it's just the footprint was too big, so I got shot and got the desktop version. Yeah, you can get them for, well, it's generally more expensive, the keyboard version, but again, I'm not sure how much. I've not even looked. I try not to look too much because I know I'm never ever going to sell it. There's anybody could come up and say, "I'll give you this for it," and I'll just say no because I don't want to sell it. That awesome. Every aspect of that synth is just incredible, but again, this all ties in with what I was saying earlier as well, with that thing with the 90s club scene and stuff. Everything had Virus TI2 in it, Virus TI in it, Virus C in it. Literally every single track you heard with them beautiful pad sounds and stuff, and was that synth. Everybody uses the fucking things. Well, everybody has anyway. Massive bands like Depeche Mode use them. Shitloads of people use them. Prodigy use them. And they keep them for a reason as well, because they really are that good. You hear people say, "Oh, but there's such and such a synthesizers, but the same, if not better." And you're like, no, because I've actually heard that synth you're talking about, and I've got a Virus TI2 here with me now, and I'm not just speculating or just saying, "Oh, this sounds better than that." I've actually heard both not through KRK rocket fucking speakers either, through fucking a few grand's worth of monitoring equipment. You know what I mean? That's when you actually hear shit. But even more so, listen to X synthesizer, software synthesizer through a massive PA, and then listen to an Access Virus TI2 through a massive PA, and then you're starting fucking, you're starting to separate shit out then. I just don't know what it is about the virus. It's just got that thing that everybody who's into synthesizers just kind of put their finger on it. It's got that sound, I should have just put this fucking. I should have named this rant. Fucking reason and music production rant synthesizer talk. So it's got. So I'll tell you what's built into it, Tron, and it'll give you an idea of what you get if you just buy the base thing. Yeah. Yeah. You get a couple actually. Well, you get 3. You get Kong. You get Kong Drum Designer, which is like it's almost a little bit like an Akai type of 12-pad jobby thing, 16-pad thing. You get Redrum, or Red Drum as I call it sometimes. It's a bit like an old school type of drum computer. Yeah, Red Drum, and then you get that other new thing. It's a player, actually. I'll show you in the players section. There it is, called Drum Sequencer. But it's not just for drums. I was playing around with it the other day, and I was using it for pads, and I was using it for melodies, and I was using it for fucking everything, and I was messing around. Well, yeah, it is. That was the idea around it, but that's the beauty of Reason. You know, the tools that you get in Reason allow you to use them on anything. You know what I mean? The arpeggiator, you could pipe that into fucking Kong if you want. You know what I mean? Just program your own arpeggiator, and there you go. You can come up with some weird and wonderful stuff that way. Well, yeah, but that's good. That's good though, because it's like you're being creative, you know, and that's what it's all about. So you get them. No, you man, honestly, right? Okay, if you were sitting here, right, I could sit you down, and talk you through and make a track in a couple of hours or something. Would have it pretty much finished and mastered, and then you could print it off and put it on a CD. No, but you're not here. You see, this is it. That would be me making it, not you. You've got to have a creative input, so you would sit and just look at the keyboard, hit some keys, play some keys, record them. No, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, man. Honestly, don't let shit like that get in the way, because you know what? It's like, right, you know the cyclist who has the bike and he knows every single detail about every single part, yeah? And they know how to repair every single part perfectly, you know that? Yeah, well, aye. But it's like, you don't need to learn or know all that, man, to make music. Because for me, the way I see it is, music, okay, you've got to look at it from where its roots are, or where its roots were. So I look back, or I try to imagine the very early days where man beat the drum. Do you know what I mean? And he wasn't a musician. You know what I mean? But he got, well, man beat woman over head with club. So beat multiple women with different thickness skills. No, that sounds awful. That. But now you know you've got all, you know, things evolve over time, get more complex over time. Most things naturally do. Melodies start coming out. You know, it's no longer just boom, 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 beating the drum as you're going on the fucking hunt anymore with your spear. It's like boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? And then things, yeah, but you know, this is what I mean. It's the same now. You don't have to be fucking Beethoven to, you know, to write music or to make music. You don't have to be. And this is what I was saying before. You know, Reason is a good tool. Ableton Live, great tool for making music for people who aren't necessarily musicians. Fair enough, Ableton's probably more. It's popular with DJs and stuff. They like to, you know, mess around with samples and stuff and loop samples and stuff like that. You can do that in Reason, but I don't do that. You see, I very rarely do it unless I'm demonstrating to somebody that, oh, that track that was made just by looping samples is fucking easy. I can do it. You know what I mean? Then I'll sit and do it. But just to demonstrate. But in the music that I generally make, I very rarely do that type of thing. I'm more of like an experimental creationist, if you like. I like to just dig something to get a sound, found sounds and stuff, and then I like to fuck about with the sound, just come up with something that I haven't heard before, and do your track around it or whatever. And I, you know, I'll be honest, I don't class myself as a musician at all. I really don't. I can, yeah, I can play it well, not brilliantly well. You know what I mean? I couldn't like get a sheet of fucking a sheet of music by Bach and sit and fucking play it for you. You know what I mean? I couldn't do it. I could sit and fucking program it for you in the sequencer. I can play a bit of guitar as well, but you know, I'll bang some chords like most guitar players. You know, they'll start with 4 basic chords. It doesn't matter, right? Right, okay, then it's the if you want to be an instrumentalist, if you want to play guitar solely, like play solos or whatever on guitar solely, or if you want to be a chord banger, if you want to play any particular instrument to a high level, then yes, you're a fucking musician. Of course you are, you know. But that doesn't mean to say that to make music or to write music or to produce music you have to be that good at playing something. You don't. All you need is a little bit of basic music theory knowledge, and there you go. But this is what I mean. Even with Reason now, it's easier still because I'm not forever looking at chord charts, you know, and looking at what notes and what particular scale. I'm not doing that all the time now because it's already fucking there. You know what I mean? Watch this, watch. I've put them 2 synths in before. Right, okay, and that combinator, I can close the combinator down. I'll minimize it so it's just on its own. So there we go, straight away C major, which is just obviously all your white notes. That's all of the notes that you need to be playing in the C scale of C major, all the basic nursery rhymey type of things. It'll all be in that key. A lot of other things, Calvin Harris likes the key of C apparently. But with Reason, okay, I don't know all the chords, I don't know all the scales. I mean, fair enough, I know the C major chord because it's piss easy and everybody fucking knows it pretty much. But in this, we've got, if I hit one note, right? That's the key, C on the keyboard. That's just the key, C by itself. Because it's got 3 notes, right? In scales and chords, it's playing the full chord, the C major chord. Yeah? And then if I go up one, D minor, then E minor, and so on. So I don't need to sit and know all what chords are in the scale of C major. I don't need to know that. I don't need to learn it. I can just fucking experiment with it. I can sit and play a few chords, and I can plug out melodies from those chords. But you haven't just got major chords, you've got minor chords, Lydian, Mixolydian, Spanish, Dorian, you get the idea. Right, the chromatic's obviously just, you know, it's not just all notes basically. And then you've got your key, so you've got C, D flat, D, E flat, E, F, G, so on. So I might want to play something in F. F minor, there you go, straight away it shows you all the keys that you can use in the scale of F minor. So as you can see there, it's C, C sharp, B sharp, and then so on. And then it'll actually, you can figure out from that what chords you can actually play from that. Straight away, C minor, D flat, E flat, F minor, G minor 5th, E flat, B flat minor. So there you go. I don't even know that. I didn't know that before. I've just done it now. So where am I different to you? I'm not. Well, yeah, I've fannied about with it and I've applied myself to it for a while. So yeah, but yeah, but it's, you've still got to learn something. Yes, but doesn't. This makes it a lot easier for people, basically. It does. It makes making music a pleasure, a joy, really. The thing is, though, the rabbit hole goes just way, way deeper than what I've explained here. Exactly. Aye. Aye. No, no, I've got no, because I'm capturing my audio interface output in another audio interface input in my microphone, and that's all I'm capturing. I mean, I could fanny about and put you through on the Discord and stuff as well, so people can hear both sides of what I'm rabbiting on about, like. I've got it on my iPad, it says 3 here, like. Alright. Aye. Aye. Right, well, I need to flip go into the loo or something and have a cup of tea and probably have a game or something before it gets too late. Aye. All right. All right. Mm. 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 Give me a second, mate. I'll be back in a minute. All right, I was back. Cheers, man. No, it's still going there. Just I want to have a fiddle about with a couple of things that I haven't messed around with before. Well, much. So this is me me current default setup, like, and it's just, it starts with a basic mastering setup, because obviously I generally don't decide on what I want to use in the mastering chain till I've finished something. So I use that, but what I've got here is another big tip to use anybody who's making music and stuff. If you're making music and you're mixing it as you go, yeah, it's a good idea to mix in mono. So what I mean by that is don't mix in stereo. But yeah, mix and mono. It's just a technique that most people use, everybody uses, well, nearly everybody uses for when you're mixing. You're mixing your tracks and so on. Set everything up in mono, and when I was mentioning select gain earlier, those 3 select tools which I have, select gain is brilliant because I've got select gain. It's the first device in my mastering chain at the minute, right? And what I've got is I've set up a button and I've named it mono mix, which is active at the minute. And when I press that, you'll see select gain. Well, you'll see the mono button change. So basically, what this means is every single time I open Reason and I come to this now, I've already got mono mix selected. So everything I'm doing is in mono. I'm sitting making the music, I'm sitting making each individual track, I'm mixing each individual track, I'm EQing even parts of it. And then at the end, when I've finished mixing everything and it comes to mastering everything, what you do is, right, you click mono mix again to bring it back to stereo, and it like goes bang in your face and you're like, what? It really works. Mixing in mono is just the way forward for anybody and everything. So that's what the tip of the evening. It's probably the best tip anybody would ever give you in music production is mix in mono. And yeah, whichever way whatever DAW you use, find a way. A lot of DAWs have it built in, but find a way to select the mono mix basically, like what I've done there. And for Reason, it's perfect with select gain. You just drag a select gain into your master section, wire it up, just set it on a button. You don't even need to set it on a button. I just have, that's all. Yeah, and that's it really. I mean, even if you notice here as well, I've even got my maximizer bypassed as well, so the bypass doesn't affect anything. So everything's ready to go at the moment. I've got all the effects I generally use, so I'll probably strip back stuff that I'm not using, or I know I'm not. Say if I'm I'm not going to use any echo board, I'll just pull it out. But yeah, select gain in with mono mix selected. It's a good start. A maximizer bypassed. It's handy. Sometimes you may need to enable it just for certain things, but never ever mix into a maximizer. Right, and then flower audio loudness meter, just to get an idea what I'm mixing into, because I don't want to get into it much, but you want to be a few dB down on below 0, you know what I mean? You don't want to be all the way banged up to 0 all the time. You want to be, you know, giving yourself some room for your mastering. When you finally start increasing your threshold on your ozone maximizer, whatever it is you use to get that volume. But again, yeah. And then below that, these things here, index and tone, are 2 handy things. They're handy things for keys of music. It's a way to sit in the weight and MIDI at the minute. And it's handy for guitar as well. And that's exactly why I got tone, because it shows you each note on a guitar on the string. So if I'm sitting messing about with a guitar and I'm farting about with melodies and stuff on the guitar, it shows us which notes are in this case C minor. Shows you which string they're on, what notes are on each fret. Handy tools. So they're definitely worth picking up in that cheapest chips as well. Index and tone. What else have I got? After that, I've got my viruses there. You can just see it, but if I click on it now, it'll probably crash out because the virus isn't switched on. If I click on it, yeah, you see the virus is disconnected at the minute. No virus sound. So virus ready to go. I've got a couple of things. I'm not sure about these things now, but yeah, anyway, they're just good to starting point, I find, for melodies and stuff. Just getting like an idea. So I've got something called vocalize, exhale, and Novo string designer. Novo string designer is quite nice. It's quite good. And that's kind of my starting point. Yeah. And on this, I've got pretty much a very similar chain as what I had before. But I think it's the same one. Yeah, it is. Uber gear, because it's a nice reverb that I quite like adding ambient stuff. Synapse, AQ7 graph equalizer. Echo board, weird and funky, that thing. Echo Boy, which is that Sound Toys BST I like. Delay. Synapse deep reverb. Soft tube there is there. Valhalla vintage verb. That's the latest one I got in the Valhalla line. I got Valhalla Shimmer first, and then I bought Valhalla vintage verb. That was the last one I got. And good old Polar there, which I don't know if you get that with Reason or not. I'm sure there was some deal or something. I don't know. Maybe you get it now. I don't know. And that's it, really. That's how I start. What else? Yeah, I always leave the Spectrum EQ open as well, because that lets you visualize your music and where everything's sitting. So I leave that open. I'll leave it open all the time, and it's good for if I'm starting a track and I sit and I make the bass. I make the bass for it, and it's generally going to sit around a melody that I've made. Now that melody I've made, I might really like the sound of it, and I make like the low end sound of it, and I make like the high end sound of it. So it might not have any high pass and low pass filter on it. So what I'll do there is that'll have a dominant place in the full spectrum, and then other sounds will be made to make room for it with EQs. So I'll high pass and low pass other things to make room for things to stand out what I want to stand out, which is just that's basic EQing really, but you can do that in the sound design process. So in the synthesizer you can do that. You don't have to do it in the big size if you don't want to, depending on the synth, of course. That's that. And on that note, end the stream. But for the next time, I think I'll. What do you reckon, Tron? Do you reckon the next time I should change the stream to 4K so then people can select what resolution they want to watch it in, or because if I'm just streaming this, I don't need it 60 frames per second, so I can stream in 4K and just knock it down to 30 frames per second and leave the bitrate at 320. Well, the thing is, what I'm not going to do is down. I'm not going to down the resolution of my monitor. I'm not going to run like a lower resolution. Like I'm just so used to this now. But I'm not keen if that magnifier, like, it just has my mouse pointers all over the place with it. Aye, 1080. Aye. I mean, it'll not be brilliant because it'll still have tiny text in it, but it'll be a fair way better than 720 that I'm. Right, I'm gonna flick this across.